Have you ever wondered what the concepts of jihad and just war truly mean? In the realm of religious and ethical studies, few concepts stir as much curiosity and, unfortunately, misunderstanding as jihad and just war. These terms, far from being simple, are deeply rooted in history, theology, and ethics, and their nuances often get lost in translation or sensational headlines. Jihad, an Arabic term derived from the root word jahada, means to exert effort or struggle. In Islamic tradition, it's a concept that embodies striving for moral and spiritual excellence. It's a broad term that can refer to an individual's personal struggle against sin, a communal effort to promote good and prevent evil, or in some cases, a defensive war. On the other hand, just war is a concept steeped in Western philosophical and theological tradition. The idea is that war, while horrific, can sometimes be morally justified under certain stringent conditions. It's a framework designed to restrain the horrors of war, stipulating when it's permissible to go to war, jus ad bellum, and how to conduct a war ethically, jus in bello. It's essential to note that both jihad and just war, despite their association with conflict, are fundamentally about peace. They're principles that aim to restrict violence, promote justice, and protect the innocent. They're not, as some might believe, a call to indiscriminate violence or an endorsement of war for its own sake. This video aims to unpack these complex concepts and provide a clear, concise understanding. We'll explore the historical, theological, and ethical dimensions of jihad and just war. We'll compare and contrast them, shedding light on their similarities and differences. We'll also address some of the common misconceptions and misinterpretations that have clouded our understanding of these principles. We're embarking on a journey of understanding, moving beyond stereotypes and simplistic narratives. We'll delve into the heart of these concepts, revealing their true nature and their relevance in today's world. Now, are you ready to delve deeper into these fascinating concepts? Scene script. First, we will explore the concept of jihad. Jihad, in its essence, is an Arabic term derived from the root word jahada, which means to strive or to struggle. It's a concept deeply embedded within the Islamic faith, and it's vital to understand that it carries a spectrum of meanings far beyond the often misunderstood and misinterpreted notion of holy war. In the broadest sense, jihad is seen as a struggle on all fronts of life. It's about striving to do good, resisting evil, and making efforts to improve oneself and the society. This struggle, or jihad, can be divided into two main types: the greater jihad and the lesser jihad. Let's delve into the greater jihad first. This is often referred to as the struggle against oneself. It's about self-improvement, spiritual growth, and moral development. It's a battle against one's own ego, against one's own negative tendencies and weaknesses. This is the jihad that every Muslim is called to engage in every day. It's about being patient in times of hardship, controlling anger, being honest, and doing good deeds. The greater jihad is essentially an internal spiritual struggle for righteousness and ethical conduct. On the other hand, we have the lesser jihad, which is the struggle against oppression. This form of jihad is often associated with physical conflict, but it's crucial to understand that it's not about promoting violence or terrorism. The lesser jihad is permitted under certain conditions in Islam, such as in self-defense or to fight against oppression and injustice. It's about standing up for what's right, for justice and freedom, and for the protection of one's community and faith. It's important to note that even in this struggle, there are strict ethical guidelines that must be followed, such as not harming innocent people or causing unnecessary destruction. Over the years, the term jihad has been misappropriated and misused, often associated with acts of terrorism and violence. However, it's crucial to emphasize that these acts are in direct contradiction to the teachings of Islam. Jihad is not synonymous with terrorism. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, clearly states that killing innocent people is akin to killing all of humanity, and saving a life is akin to saving all of humanity. It's also worth noting that the concept of jihad is not unique to Islam. Many religious and philosophical systems emphasize the importance of internal struggle for self-improvement and external struggle against injustice, albeit using different terminologies. Jihad, therefore, is a concept that promotes internal struggle for self-improvement and external struggle for justice and peace. Scene script. Next, let's turn our attention to the concept of just war. This term, just war, may seem a bit of an oxymoron. After all, how can something as destructive as war be considered just? But let's break it down. Just war theory is a philosophical and ethical framework that seeks to determine when, if ever, it is morally justifiable to go to war, and how such a war should be fought once it begins. It's not about endorsing violence, but about providing a moral compass in times of conflict. At the heart of just war theory are three key criteria: just cause, last resort, and proportionality. Let's delve into each of these. First, the criterion of just cause. This means that war can only be waged for a reason that is morally defensible. Just cause can include self-defense, the protection of innocent life, or the preservation of human rights. It's not enough to go to war simply because of a desire for power, territory, or resources. The cause must be just. Next is the criterion of last resort. That is, all peaceful alternatives must have been exhausted before resorting to war. This could include diplomacy, sanctions, or other non-violent means of conflict resolution. War should never be the first option, but the very last, when all else has failed. And finally, we have proportionality. This means that the damage inflicted in the war must be proportional to the harm that is being prevented or redressed. For instance, it would not be just to level an entire city to capture a single criminal. The use of force must be measured and appropriate to the situation. Just war theory, then, it's about making difficult moral decisions in times of conflict. It's about asking tough questions and holding ourselves accountable. It's about recognizing that even in war, there are lines that should not be crossed. Now, it's important to remember that just war theory is not perfect. It doesn't provide easy answers, and it can't prevent all atrocities of war. But it does give us a framework for thinking about these issues, for striving to do better, for aiming to minimize harm while standing up for what is right. It's also worth noting that just war theory is not exclusively a Western concept. Similar ideas can be found in many different cultures and religious traditions around the world, including Islam, which we discussed earlier in this video. So what does all this mean? Well, it suggests that despite our many differences, there is a shared human desire for justice, even in the midst of conflict. It's a reminder that war is not a free-for-all, but a grave responsibility that should be undertaken with the utmost care and moral discernment. Just war, then, is a concept that guides us in determining when and how to engage in warfare ethically. Having understood these concepts, let's see how they compare. As we delve into the principles and objectives of jihad and just war, it's crucial to remember that both concepts provide a framework for when and how to engage in conflict. They aim to regulate the use of force, promote justice, and ultimately strive for peace. In Islamic teachings, jihad is often referred to as the struggle in the path of God. It's a comprehensive concept encompassing a Muslim struggle against evil, both within oneself and in society. A part of this struggle can involve armed conflict, but only when it's for a just cause, such as self-defense or protecting the oppressed, and only when all peaceful means have been exhausted. The rules of engagement in jihad are strictly defined, prohibiting harm to civilians, destruction of infrastructure, and causing unnecessary harm even to the enemy combatants. On the other hand, just war theory, rooted in Christian philosophy, also provides a set of criteria for when it's morally justifiable to go to war and how to conduct oneself during the war. Just war must have a just cause, be declared by a legitimate authority, have right intention, be a last resort, and have a reasonable chance of success. Additionally, the conduct during the war must obey the principles of proportionality and discrimination, meaning the force used must be proportional to the threat posed, and efforts must be made to avoid harming non-combatants. Comparing these two concepts, we see several parallels. Both jihad and just war emphasize the importance of a just cause, the use of force as a last resort, and the protection of non-combatants. They both promote the pursuit of peace and justice and discourage unnecessary violence and destruction. However, there are also key differences that set them apart. While just war theory focuses primarily on the conduct of states and armies, jihad encompasses a broader range of struggles, including personal and spiritual ones. Moreover, while jihad allows only defensive war, just war theory can justify war for reasons other than self-defense, provided the cause is just. Also, the authority to declare a just war traditionally lies with the state or a legitimate authority, while in jihad, the declaration can come from a religious authority or the community of believers, adding a distinct dimension of communal responsibility. Though they stem from different religious and philosophical traditions, both jihad and just war serve as ethical guides in situations of conflict. They both underscore the sanctity of human life and the importance of justice, peace, and restraint in the face of aggression. Despite their differences, jihad and just war both provide frameworks for ethical conduct in situations of conflict. But of course, these concepts are often misunderstood and misinterpreted. In the realm of ideas and beliefs, misconceptions are not uncommon. They are like shadows that follow the light of truth. This is especially true when it comes to the concepts of jihad and just war. For starters, a common misconception is that jihad is synonymous with terrorism. In reality, jihad, an Arabic term, is a complex concept in Islamic tradition that essentially means striving or struggling, particularly with a praiseworthy aim. It can refer to internal struggles like combating negative emotions or external ones, such as standing up against injustice. Similarly, the concept of just war is often misinterpreted. Some believe it gives carte blanche for wanton violence in the name of justice. However, the reality is far from it. Just war is a doctrine that seeks to ensure war is morally justifiable through a series of criteria, which must be met for a war to be declared a just war. These criteria include things like just cause, proportionality, and last resort. These misconceptions often arise from a lack of understanding or misinformation. They can be fueled by media portrayals, stereotypes, or even political agendas. The harm they cause is multifaceted. They can breed fear, mistrust, and hostility, and can even lead to violence and conflict. It's important to reiterate that the true meaning of jihad is about striving for good, and the concept of just war is about ensuring justice and morality in conflict. Both concepts are intended to promote peace, justice, and harmony, not violence or aggression. Understanding these concepts in their true form can help bridge divides, foster mutual respect, and promote peaceful coexistence. We must remember that knowledge is the antidote to misunderstanding. We need to educate ourselves and others, challenge stereotypes, and promote dialogue. Misinterpretations can distort our understanding, but with correct knowledge, we can see jihad and just war in their true light. So, what have we learned about jihad and just war? In our deep dive into these two concepts, we've uncovered layers of meaning that often go unnoticed. We've seen that both jihad and just war are not mere calls to arms, but complex ethical guidelines that inform how conflict should be approached and resolved. In our exploration of jihad, we discovered that it is, at its heart, a struggle or strive towards good. This struggle can be internal, as we battle against our own flaws and strive to improve ourselves, or external, as we work to rectify injustices in the wider world. It's a call to personal growth, social responsibility, and principled action. When we turn to just war, we found similar themes. This age-old theory, deeply embedded in international law and moral philosophy, asks us to weigh the reasons for going to war, and to ensure that our conduct during war is proportionate and respects the rights of non-combatants. It's a doctrine that demands moral responsibility, even in the most extreme circumstances. In comparing these two concepts, we found many parallels. Both jihad and just war ask us to consider the ethical implications of our actions, to strive for justice, and to avoid unnecessary harm. They each uphold the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, and remind us of our shared responsibility to protect these values. Yet, we also discussed how both concepts have been misinterpreted and misused. We saw how the true meanings of jihad and just war have been overshadowed by their distortions, leading to harmful stereotypes and misunderstandings. In this journey, we've sought to dispel these misconceptions, to illuminate the rich, nuanced meanings of jihad and just war, and to highlight their relevance to our contemporary world. With this understanding, we can now view these concepts not as endorsements of violence, but as guides for ethical conduct in situations of conflict.